Greetings, geeks. Welcome to episode 528 of Geeks in Space. I am Rob, Commander Taco Malda, and I am joined today by two of the greatest geeks who are you ever going to meet, who are going to pretend for 20 or 30 minutes that they're in low Earth orbit to talk about some random shenanigans. I have Rob Roseboom.
That's me.
And Chris DeBona.
Hello.
All right, so since nothing related to the president's green screen is in the news, we should talk about Ryzen CPUs.
Yeah, let's do that. Where is the Ryzen story?
It's fourth down on my screen.
There
So AMD announced the Ryzen 5000, making me very glad that I chose not to purchase a 3950 to crack a pin off, and instead only cracked a pin off a 3900, which is a $300 cheaper pin to crack off. They're saying 19% faster at comparable clock speeds. Obviously,
really?
nobody's tested
Nice.
anything faster. They kept the electric requirements the same across all four of the SKUs. It's going to be motherboard compatible with, I think, the 550s and the 570s. So Daddy thinks we're going to need another stimmy check.
Well, we'll eventually get one, probably.
Well, after Trump is reelected.
So what I'm looking for.
She didn't do it. I'm pressing it anyway.
What happened?
Oh, no, there she is. I pushed the button.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge upgrade. They're staying 7 nanometers. Intel put out like a blog or something saying, no, that's cool. We're going to be real cool in 2021. Everything's cool. We're good. Everything's fine.
Oh, Intel.
Yeah.
And this is the PCIe 4 ones. This can support multi-terabits of data across 16 PCIe 4 lanes or whatever. Is that what I hear? So you stick some of those ruler SSDs on one of these suckers and you can have IOPS through the roof. I mean, insane.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I mean, at least if Steve from Gamers Nexus is steering me straight, then what I know is that the high-end Intel CPUs still have an individual core that is faster than your typical Ryzen, making them ideal for certain gaming applications. But that's going to be all done. That's gone.
All right, let me get this straight. I just want to make sure you're not denying the primacy of Tech Jesus's ideas, because that's a problem. The Michigan militia is going to have a problem with you if you're denying.
No, I have
Tech
a little
Jesus.
Steve alter.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I blow lots of liquid nitrogen fumes onto it.
Well, it's cool because it gives you like a smoke effect.
Yeah, it makes me feel cool. It's green, so whatever that is lost to me.
No, this is killing me. This is the little. Oh man, I don't want to shut off my green screen. This is the dumpster fire vinyl figure.
Oh, that's cute.
It is cute, but it's green. So. Oh well.
Yep.
It's gonna put it on my desk, and I'll enjoy it.
So they upped the price of each of the chips by like $50 at each of the price points, but that seems pretty reasonable.
This is a huge value, though, and honestly, they were hurting a little bit on single thread performance, and this takes care of that.
Yep.
And wow, and that TDP is not bad.
No.
105 watts. I mean, it's a lot of watts, but for 32 sub threads, 16 cores, that's a heck of a deal.
Yeah.
Heck of a deal.
I mean, just being in Intel's meetings, they just must hate their lives. I find that amusing because we spend like a decade watching Intel just do nothing.
Well,
it's funny to me.
there's someone with a spreadsheet and it says we don't have to do anything.
Right. Why would we go faster? It's almost
we go faster? Why would we make it cheaper?
It's almost like monopolies are a bad thing for the consumer. It's weird.
Well, I mean, you know what they'd say in response, Mr. Malda? They're like, obviously, we're not a monopoly. AMD.
That's right. And that's what they definitely would have said once somebody else took the monopoly crown from them. It's weird how that your position changes.
Yeah.
When you.
But I would
lose.
also say AMD is in no way a monopoly. They still are not. I mean, the Rome EPYC CPUs, they're really nice, but they're not quite threatening Xeon in the data center. So
No, for sure.
but you can see him coming though.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
we
There's
spent a
like
decade.
smoke
We
on
spent
horizon.
a lost decade without anything really interesting happening competition wise. So it's nice to see.
Yeah.
So all right, do you want to do? All right, we can do movie things, or we can talk Waymo.
It's up to you. We can go Waymo. We can go movie things.
Well, let's do Waymo, just because
and then pivot to movies.
Well, then let's get the crappy stuff out of the way, and then we'll talk about the less important things. But no, the serious news. Waymo is cool. They're now officially taking drivers in Phoenix for real, unattended no safety drivers. Elon Musk set out his angry tweets.
He did?
Yeah, he sent out a tweet something to the effect of, this only solves a particular use case, but the Tesla use case is all cases. And I'm like, sure, whatever, man.
Tesla's pretty neat. You don't have to feel threatened by Waymo to be successful at Tesla, Elon. I know you're listening.
Well, Elon and Jake, we should figure out where Jake is from. Jake should be from somewhere cool. Does Jake work at like Apple? No, he should work at like one of the big Chinese suppliers or something. That would make more sense.
TSMC.
Yeah,
he works at TSMC, typing out AMDs and NVIDIA CPUs.
He relies on us for our discussion on nanometers.
No, he's laughing. He's like, those guys, they don't understand.
They don't know nothing.
But he's having a good time with the movie talk.
That's right.
So
he's really just angry that we're not talking about the Spider-Man yet. Anyway, I've been saying for years and years and years that there's a singularity that's going to occur with self-driving cars. I truthfully don't care. You can mute that. I truly don't care which of the providers gets to that place. It doesn't really matter whether it's the Googe or whether it's Elon Musk or whether it's one of the other half a dozen, like the GM coalitions or whatever that are trying to do it. I don't care. When the self-driving car becomes a thing where Americans no longer rely on owning garages and no longer have to store I don't know, 10% of their net worth, depending on the household, in a piece of metal that sits in a parking garage or garage for 23 out of 24 hours. That is going to be a crazy world-changing event. I can't wait for it. Also, I'd never want to buy another car.
A couple things, though. Americans are so tied to owning cars that it's kind of a pipe dream. What you're talking about. Sure, there'll be a bunch of people who do it, like people do in New York right now. People live in big cities, but
coastal elites, Mr. Roscoe.
But people are going to still own vehicles.
For sure.
One. Number two, it is going to absolutely devastate the trucking industry.
Oh no, I disagree.
Every industry.
So I know I just went fuzzy.
You did.
So I would say that in the near term, the increased number of trucks on the road, because we have underinvested in rail and airplanes are too expensive. I think this is a net good for the truck driver. I mean, these enhanced autopilots, man, this is really a good thing for them.
Having a father who was a truck driver, let me assure you, it isn't.
Yeah, I got a trucker relative too. This ain't good. Yeah. This is only bad for that industry.
It's going to put tons of people out of work who are truck drivers. It'll probably be good for the industry, the people who own the truck and stuff, but the independent truck drivers, it will absolutely crush them.
Now, I also have relatives.
I'm actually really interested. I want to hear your reasoning because I drive long distances for vacations and trips and all the rest. And, honestly, it's me and like a million trucks on the road. Right. And so like, I know for me, like when distance following cruise control and lane keeping came in, it made, I was able to drive an extra 3-4 hours a day, because of that stuff. So, I mean, is that not true?
You're kind of missing the end game, Chris.
Well,
Yeah. If there's not a truck driver in the truck, yes, that's bad for them, Chris.
Well, sure. But listen, I'm under the assumption that the truck is going to have a safety driver.
Okay, let's assume they have a safety driver.
No way.
You don't need. Then you wouldn't need to pay those people as much because all they're doing is sitting and babysitting.
Yep.
We don't pay them that much anyway, Rob.
You're going to pay them less. It is still a job that you can support a middle class family on. And there are not a lot of jobs.
One of the few things you could do.
Yeah.
That are blue collar like that you can make a decent amount of money doing.
Yeah. I also have family members who are, let's say, fairly invested in the car wash industry and in the gas station industry. And I can tell you the margins in the gas station.
Nothing.
Yeah, the margins in the gas station industry are so thin that if
they're making money off jerky.
Well, so let's say 5% of cars, 10% of cars go A, electric, go B, single owner, and then therefore C, are always charged at a corporately owned charging station. I don't know what percentage of gas stations go under, but it's a lot. And so that makes getting gas less convenient. That makes those businesses go out of business. It gets sticky, and I think we're closer to the razor's edge than a lot of people want to think about.
I think you're probably right. I mean, when you couple automatic driving with electric cars, there's some real questions you have about how do we fund roads? How do we fund, how do we keep the cars that are ICE based gassed up, for a reasonable price? I mean, it's. I think I said, 150 episodes ago, we should get to the point where gas and oil are seen as too precious to use on ground transportation. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but it's like, we should be saving it for those, disconnected uses like airplanes and I don't know, the Navy or something, where they can't be connected. We should be electrifying the rails. We should be electrifying the roads. We shouldn't. We're on a path to suicide as a society.
Yeah, but okay,
and that's going to kill a lot of people too.
You're only scratching the surface. That's just the environmental stuff. Right. Think about the finance component. How many people are financing cars, and how much the banking industry relies on. You step through every single
how much
step.
Financing.
Yeah. You take a step through every piece of the industry. Like, just imagine, as a thought experiment, pretend 10% of cars are like once you work out what percentage of the time most cars are idle. Imagine a single entity owning 10% of cars, which is not a huge percentage, or 10% of the road miles driven, and the trickle-down effects. And think about every industry that touches, from your McDonald's sitting at exit 167 off the highway, to your gas stations, to your truckers. Like, this is a rippling effect that is going to be generationally changing, and it's going to have a net end result.
You're absolutely right. But we're not going to not go through it.
Oh, absolutely. And we've just been talking about like long distance trucking, right?
And I have a lot of sympathy for your dad, and
how many local delivery shops and local truck drivers are there? There's tons. That's how we get goods everywhere right now to retail stores and such.
So let me ask you guys something. So in Michigan, in California, we have this Proposition 22, which is basically $283 million of spending by Lyft and Uber to make their employees contractors as opposed to employees, which was a ruling we had in our courts here. Do you have anything like that on your ballot? Do you even have propositions for the militia to vote on?
Well, we've got the gubernatorial kidnapping initiative, but it's only right now got like between 6 and 13 votes.
It doesn't have enough votes to go on the ballot.
I think we only have one proposition on the ballot right now, and that has to do with how the state can take money to upgrade parks and rec areas right now.
Okay.
About where they can take money from.
So are you saying that the marina that has caused so much trouble for you, Mr. Roseboom, can get some federal or state matching funds for improvements?
No, that's a private thing.
Well, they might be able to through the small business loan people, but I mean, since the issue isn't a monetary one, but the owner is dying one, I don't think any propositions or extra money will help unless they make a self-driving
casket.
self-driving person. They take some of this technology and just, take out his heart and just make him a cyborg or something. Then maybe that help.
Are you building a data or a lore?
Neither, please. I'm
those
talking
those were bad movies, Mr. Malden.
Yeah. I want a cyborg that's obvious that he's a cyborg, other than, weird eyes and color of skin. I want to see metal bits.
Bad makeup.
Maybe a little bit of steam, coming out, something like that.
A very obvious mechanical whirring if you're within 15 feet of him.
For sure, I want to see a flywheel.
Coil line.
Yeah.
An escapement gear poking out from his chest,
Yeah. So that's all on the table. There can be no surprises,
Yeah, listen, I don't want to sound like I'm taking it easy on because I don't want truckers to go out of business. They seem like they're all right people. It's
it's not truckers. It's everything.
I think it's going to be. I know, but I think it's going to be a multi-decade process that we can either let hit us in the face like a shovel in 20 years, or we can act like adults and say, this is coming. How do we plan for it? How do we go there? But then I remember we're America.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And as far as
I completely wholeheartedly agree with your assessment and your idea. We shouldn't, cling to the past because we're scared. We should march forward and do what's best for the planet, do what's best for everyone eventually. Unfortunately, as you talked about, the idea that we would actually put forth some sort of plan and transition, maybe get some of these people who are driving truck, teach them, instead of driving the truck, teach them how to, service the modules that, allow it to drive or whatever, get them into another industry, something. But we won't do that.
And I'll argue with you on your multi-decade thing, because I think that the singularity, like I was joking about this as being a singularity moment. This is the start, but it's still not. And I'm not talking about the singularity in like the Borg sense or anything. I'm just talking about the transition, because what's going to happen?
The tipping point.
There's a tipping point with the self-driving car. Which the Waymo thing is not that yet. That's one city. They're a flat city with controlled weather, relatively stable weather. There's a second point, which is the real point, at which point it becomes economically viable for most car owners to get rid of at least one car. And I don't know if that point is 1 year away or 6 years away, but when that happens, think about what percentage of the cars on the road are owned by a leaseholder. So then is the average car lease 5 years? So that means from that moment on, in 5 years, that number of people are going to weigh the economics of it, and they are going to have to make a decision. Do I spend more to own my car or less to use my app that summons a car to my house, and is that worth it to me? And that could be a 5-year window as you watch leases run out. And at the end of that 5-year window, you have 10, 20% of cars that have transitioned to this platform or to whatever this thing looks like. And that's it. It's fast. Because at that point, there's not enough cars out there to support half the gas stations. And it's going to be real inconvenient when you got to drive to the other side of town to get your gas.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So can I tell you kind of an egotistical story?
If I said no, you'd do it anyway.
I'm going to do it anyway. I was the first person to fall asleep in a self-driving car.
Nicely done.
So this is like 10, 11, 12 years ago. We were going down 280. So it must have been about 12 years ago. Yeah. Lazo had been born, and he was still in that sort of baby stage where he was up a lot. I was fucking exhausted. And this is when we were doing the Priuses, right? So we took a Prius, we stuck all this stuff on it, and the air conditioning couldn't keep up, and there's computers everywhere. There's 5 of us in this car, right? It's me, this guy who actually ended up working at Uber on their project, and another guy.
No lawsuits were involved with any of these people.
No, it wasn't that guy. No, this was a really so this guy, Michael Weiss Malik. Can I tell you, he is one of the best nerds I have ever met in my life. He created Google Moon. Do you remember that flavor of Google Earth? Was the moon. He created it in 3 weeks. He came to Google Yeah, him and this guy Noel Gorlick, right? They seriously. Well, a friend of mine said you need to talk to these guys. So I talked to them, and they're like, "Hey, so we really want to make Google Moon." I'm like, "That's a really good idea." They're like, "Great, we'll be there Monday." I'm like, "Wait, what?" You know? And so I call up our head of security. I was like, "I need badges," and he's like, "For what?" And I'm like, "These two guys, they're coming here on Monday." So they come in. 3 weeks later, we had launched Google Moon, and it was just like this. Bow, I've never seen that before. And he also worked on the Mars reconnaissance orbiter instruments. He did the drill and the little sampler that landed on Mars. I mean, just galaxy brain in this guy.
But
so
he didn't
smart.
fall asleep in the car that day.
No, because he didn't have babies yet. I think he had just gotten married. Anyway, so we're in the back of the car. I'm against the side, and they're like, "Yeah, we're just gonna go up and down 280," and it's like an hour each way. And I'm like, I'm exhausted. I'm like, no offense to you guys, but I'm going to take a nap. So I'm out. Right. And I wake up, they're taking pictures of me. I'm like, what? They're like, you're the first person to have trusted this car enough to fall asleep. And I was like, yeah, all right. And Sebastian Thrun, who was running the project at the time, he's like, I heard about that. That's great. And I'm like, yeah.
All right, let's see. A judge has ordered Twitter to unmask the Seth Rich originator. I'm sure glad that we never had to deal with that back in the day.
Oh, no.
Yep.
You should explain that you're being sarcastic, Mr. Moore.
Well, we mostly said no. But I think the SourceForge guys had it rougher, I think, with that stuff. But
yeah, we had a relationship with the FBI at SourceForge.
Yes. But no, that's an interesting one. I'm kind of amazed that they didn't just do it. You know what I mean? Like there comes a point where your moral defenses, like I understand your protection of privacy and everything, and I'm all for it, and I'm a stand-up person when it comes to defending that sort of stuff. But like, this is a different thing. Like people are dead. So anyway, can
I ask? Listen, I admit when someone says Seth Rich, I kind of tune out.
Yep.
Because what precisely happened? Someone tweeted something and someone died, or didn't die, or
isn't this the conspiracy that Hillary Clinton / the Democrat National Committee had him killed because he released stuff to WikiLeaks?
I think that's this guy.
So the FBI wants to talk to some troll on the internet for coming up with an obviously bullshit conspiracy theory that led to Pizzagate.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, and that's the thing, right? Now, they should there comes a point where you should just be like, yeah, you should probably be allowed to talk to this guy. I don't know anything, but they like the fact that
how did we become the country where that sort of thing can be considered the tipping point for a Pizzagate style QAnon thing?
I mean, what I was reading the other day that one of the reasons that this came out of the 4chan thing was that cheese pizza starts with CP, which is the same as child pornography. So therefore, literally, that's the level of crazy here. I mean, anything you want can be conspiracy if you want it to be, and you can then go kidnap, your governor, and then. You have the president.
We should talk about the governor thing. I'm sure there's someone who's listening is like, what are they talking about with this governor thing? They keep saying governor.
Oh, okay. So
what is going on?
Chris, every single human being that pays attention to the news knows this story at this point. And if they're not paying attention to the news, it's not Jake and Elon. A bunch of dudes were arrested for making plans to kidnap the governor. Our listeners
are the smart ones.
That's true. I don't know. Who's in the channel today? I don't know if they're the smart ones. Look, I'm Baloo and Elvisor. No.
They're smart.
Yeah, there we go. So look, I mean, there's a whole lot of loony. They threatened to, or they were planning to kidnap the governor. They went as far as to case the house. They had an agent that had infiltrated them.
Her vacation home.
Yeah.
They cased out. They were going to take over a state police station as well. And then from there, they were going to take over the Capitol and grab her there. That was another scenario that they had going. So they had multiple ideas on how they were going to kidnap her and wrest control of Michigan state government.
And one of their guys was wearing a wire, is what it seems like.
Yeah,
CHS2.
One of the people in their group was an informant.
Wait. They labeled him as CHS2. Did they have 2 informants inside this 12-person militia?
Well, it's more than 12 people. That's just the people they picked up who they could prove are directly involved.
Wow.
And it wouldn't surprise me at all. Most rural areas around here have some sort of militia or some sort of, organization like that.
Oh, man.
That's right.
There's some really big ones, actually.
And to be clear to our listeners, amongst friends, it's not just Michigan. No. This goes on in Idaho. This goes on in Washington State. It goes on in Fresno and Barstow and Bartlesville.
This goes on 100 miles away from every city in America. You just got to get in any city, drive 100 miles away, and then you'll find it.
We have a movement in California called the Jeffersonians.
Oh, yeah.
Who want? I don't know if you have those in your towns.
Well, we got the folks that want to secede the UP.
Yeah.
To who? To what?
To their own land.
It's like, okay, look what happens when we shut off these power lines, buddy. It's like
it's going to be cold up in Uperland.
Yeah, I mean
that's okay. Most of them have wood burning stoves.
Yep,
sure.
They're actually going to be a lot better through the apocalypse than we are.
Yeah.
They don't actually care if Twitter goes down. All right, so
that's the real consequence.
That's right.
Yeah.
The last 2 things that I have on the list are movie-related news. First, let's do the sad one. Soul is going to skip theaters. It's going to go straight to Disney+. Soul is, of course, the follow-up for, I believe, Pete Docter, who is responsible for Inside Out and Up, the last of the great Pixar directors, I suppose. This movie has been critically, it's a critical darling. Everybody basically expected it to win every award that could possibly be won this year for an animated film, and it will not be the Thanksgiving holiday movie, which, did they move Dune now? Is that officially moved?
They moved Dune, they moved No Time to Die.
They moved Wonder Woman.
So 2020's done. And this was, I think, the last one that was they were still kind of discussing, but it does I remember having a conversation with a Pixar employee during the era of the release of Cars 2. And they talked a lot about how during that era, the economics of their studio were such that the production costs of their movies basically meant that they had to hit a blockbuster home run every single time or they would go under.
That's not
what's that?
That's not uncommon in these big studios.
For sure. But that's why a movie like Cars 2 gets made and not a movie like Inside Out or something, right? Like you make a sequel to a very profitable movie. It makes economic sense even if the movie's not that good. And that was, on some level, maybe that was the pact with the devil that they made at that point, right? We sacrifice our artistic aspirations somewhat for the economic necessity. Soul, in a lot of ways, looked to me to be like, their smaller movie that really tries to aim at telling, an emotional story and not a action adventure-y, get 12-year-olds into the theater sort of story. And so it was a risk for them to not be swinging for the, billion-dollar blockbuster franchise tentpole kind of film. So the fact that it's going to Disney Plus, I mean, it's good, I guess, that Pixar's inside of, the Disney behemoth now, and that sort of thing doesn't matter as much anymore. But that's, man, what a shift. What a shift.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're going to be feeling the waves of this for years,
Yeah.
Just years.
And another thing that will presumably...
Wait, there's one thing about Soul that you should point out. It's Jamie Foxx in the lead voice role. And he's also coming back as Electro.
Again.
Why?
Well, funny you should mention that. Look at my background.
Oh, yeah, nice. That's great.
So Benedict Cumberbatch is officially now on board as Doctor Strange for Spider-Man 3.
That's right.
And
Which
I
is
believe
great.
Spider-Man 3, I don't know now how the sequencing is going to line out, but the expectation was the next Doctor Strange movie, The Multiverse of Madness, would be the one that cracked open the door or maybe kicked down the door to the multiverse. I think the expectation is WandaVision is going to open the door and Doctor Strange is going to kick it down. But now, knowing that Doctor Strange is going to be in Spider-Man 3, knowing that Jamie Foxx is going to be playing Electro in Spider-Man 3, and knowing
Again.
Yes, from the Amazing Spider-Man from the Andrew Garfield franchise, and J.J. Abrams, J. Jonah Jameson,
Yes.
once again recast,
As played by J.K. Simmons.
recast from the Sam Raimi trilogy. We now have major characters from each of the prior two trilogies, and the Marvel character most associated with interdimensional travel, which is not a sure thing, but if it's anything else, bummer.
No.
Sure, interesting.
It's especially since it looks like they're going to try to introduce the Sinister Six. And that is just going to be death. That's just too many characters. It's too much.
Well, Sinister Six is Mysterio, Electro.
The lineup changes a lot.
Yeah, it shifts.
Rhino, Doc Ock.
Sometimes Kraven shows up in there.
Shocker, Scorpion.
It's basically it's basically whichever six characters they want to do. But the trick again is that the Sinister Six is owned by Sony, so Marvel would be hesitant to lean too far in. But that said, Spider-Man 3 still a Sony movie, and they're letting more of the MCU leak into it, which creates all the sort of weird rules. I don't know how, we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but they talked about how the Sony Spider-Man the last Spider-Man made intentional changes to the Spider-Man character to differentiate it from the comic book, so that when Sony got it back, or if Sony took Spider-Man back, that they would be able to have a different version of the Spider-Man, like just little backstory changes that they changed things around. It's interesting. Anyway, it's now not confirmed, but damn, we're gonna have a multiverse, and I'm excited for that because I think that's fun.
I'm a little worried. That's all. I just think that, we've talked before, and it's not the most important thing in the world, right? But this may be the ebb of the MCU. They're trying to do too much that most people won't care about.
Yeah.
Well, and especially when you have that coupled to whatever the new era of a blockbuster movie looks like in 2022.
Right.
I don't like the notion of think about filming the last two Avengers movies, which they filmed back to back and shelled out $500 million as an investment into that to make two movies. Paid off great, in the late teens market. Is that gonna still exist in 2 years? It's not. I mean, think about Avatar. Think about how all those Avatar sequels that they've been filming back to back to back to back to back, and how much cash and how much they've got banked up for the footage for those. And what does the industry look like in 2022, 3, 4, 5 when they release each of those movies? Man, that's a weird investment. But what I'm hoping happens is that that internally they still are going to try to think big, but they are also going to be realistic and realize that investing in things like WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, get yourself, make more TV shows, accept that things are going to be going to streaming, and make $50 million movies instead of $250 million movies, and accept that your core audience is going to stick with you. And guess what? Core audience likes multiverses. They think that's fun because that's inside weirdness with your characters, and your characters get to meet parallel versions of themselves, and that stuff can be fun. They've been doing it in comics for.
It can be. It can.
Sure.
Also,
it can also suck.
For sure.
Yeah.
But as we've seen in comic book movies, most comic book movies suck. So let's trust, or for me anyway, I'm gonna trust that they're gonna draw the right line.
I kind of feel like with the Avengers, even the lesser known ones are still enough characters that mainstream people know, right? So if you head out to, like the Winter Soldier and WandaVision, quite frankly, those are all sort of fringe characters.
Yeah,
to mainstream
second and third tier.
So maybe that'll be okay.
Well, that's why I think I've tried to make the case on several occasions that Guardians of the Galaxy is the most important movie in the MCU, because ain't nobody heard of Star-Lord and Groot before that movie came out, and they proved that they could put quality creative behind that and leverage unknown characters and they weren't even in the same universe as the rest of the MCU for the first movie. There's not really crossover there. So,
not until they figured out that it could make money.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then that transition happened. So,
but it was
and I kind of feel like these new projects aren't like that. Like, I think that was a happy coincidence, and I feel like they're trying to plot cleverness, and it's hard to plot cleverness, as we've seen.
Yeah.
I think they actually did plot that clever. And the question is just, can they maintain it? But also, like, Feige is supposed to be getting a Star Wars trilogy or whatever. I mean, who knows what Feige's going to be doing for the next 10 years? The Russo brothers moved on. Like a lot of the core creative people are gone now, or having their time split.
I don't know. The way I see it, it comes down to the directors and the right stars coming together on the right kind of movie. Because, like, there's only, like, two people, Edgar Wright and Taika Waititi, who could have pulled that off, in my opinion. I think all the rest just can't do it. It comes off as ungenuine. It comes off as dull. It comes off as, look, we're so funny, and it's like, you're really not. No,
it's I don't know. I mean, I thought the Spider-Man movies are acceptable for what they are. And Edgar Wright was supposed to direct Ant-Man. That was
and who they had do it? He was all right though. The guy they had do it.
I mean, the Ant-Man movies are clearly in the bottom third of the MCU.
But they call them inside Disney. They call them the baby the baby Marvels or the mini Marvels, because they don't spend as much. They're just cute and clever and fun.
Right,
and they're more fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't take itself very seriously either. Right.
Yeah.
And I think
I kind of feel like it's a watered down version of sort of Deadpool. Deadpool is edgy and it's, vulgar, and Ant-Man is the more family friendly version of that whole idea.
Yeah. James Gunn, he's all right.
James Gunn is the bomb, man. You go watch Slither.
Sliver with Sharon Stone?
No, not with Sharon Stone. Sliver.
If you've never seen Slither, it's there's some good stuff in it for sure.
He also did
makes you think Disney.
Yeah, nothing says Disney like Slither. But I think that's what's going to happen, right? I think we're going to see more of the baby Marvel type movies built to go to streaming, or maybe some of them become 8-episode TV shows instead of 2-hour movies. And maybe that's the future, because the only way that that the Avengers stuff works is if the home run has to be $1 billion for the economics of this to work out, And if it's not, if the home run is $350 million, then it doesn't work.
Well, I mean, you have this question, and this is a very corporate question, where it's like, so suppose they take Soul and they put it inside Disney Plus, and Disney Plus says, okay, the number of people who are willing to give us $7 a month just so they can watch Soul and become part of the Disney Plus family is X, right? And the ongoing long-term value of that customer, You know, do they now say that was because of Soul, that was because of WandaVision, that was because of this, right? And does it really change the economics that much?
Well, they
right?
already did the
Are they
weird test with
saying
Mulan.
we can make more money directly by bringing them to Disney Plus? We don't have to share that money with Regal Cinemas or Tencent or any of these people, and we can just pocket it ourselves.
So I think that's what I mean, who would not love to see a one-page summary of what really happened to the economics of Mulan? How many new subscribers did that get them, and how much money for paying $30 a copy did they make? And I mean, you know that those two numbers are probably smaller than what it would have pulled off in the box office, but if you amortize those users,
it's not clear.
Right. Well, yeah, the movie wasn't that good. So would it have been a $200 million movie or a $700 million movie? We'll never know. And I'd love to see that spreadsheet, because if you assume a new subscriber to Disney Plus subscribes, I mean, nobody's subscribing to Disney Plus to get Soul, I guess. But
I don't know that that's true. I mean, there's probably a number of people who are on Disney Plus for Pixar. Right. I mean,
I suppose,
and this is Pixar.
But this is going to be, I mean, this is just me guessing. This is Inside Out and Up Pixar, or maybe Wall-E Pixar. This isn't Cars and Toy Story and Finding Nemo Pixar. Those are, they live in two different buckets and they have different economic expectation.
Honestly, that's my Pixar, though. I love Wall-E and Up. I mean, wow, you know?
For sure.
But
all right, folks. Let's say goodbye.
We're boring now.
Yeah, we're tired and sad, and I love watching Rob's dog's tail just go back and forth. It's cute.
It's very cute.
Goodbye, Chris DeBona.
Goodbye, Rob Malda and Rob Roseboom.
Goodbye, Rob Roseboom.
See you later, guys.
This has been episode 528 of Geeks in Space. I'm Rob Commander Taco Malda. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.